Hello, and welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about Phil Daniels in the film Quadrophenia, or rather the issue of multiple identities that the film represents. Martin gets excited about sticky tape, gives us some illuminating information about stealing from the bees. We both recall experiencing a common metaphor in real life, and wonder why people bother to put the progress they've made with their games on the internet. Who am I?
All right.
Get sorted out. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I was just trying to do Wordle.
Any success?
Well, I've had 2 goes and I know what 3 of the letters are, but I can't work out which order they're in.
Yeah, I've seen people start to put that up on Facebook.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
How they're doing on Wordle, but I've never really got involved in it myself. Isn't there there's a pretty similar TV program, isn't there? Lingo, which pretty much does the same thing.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really understand that the whole thing about putting your game successes on the internet. I mean, when you win a game of Monopoly, you're supposed to put that up or something.
I don't know. Perhaps it's just
sharing. I beat you at Soccerama. Should I put it on there?
Well, that would never happen, but you could do.
I seem to remember we did put it on the last time we had a game.
I think we did, yeah, but that's probably about 5 years ago now.
Yeah, we play Soccerama less frequently than the World Cup comes round.
Yeah, we need to have another Soccerama evening. You're right.
We do, yeah. Yeah, anyway, other than that, I'm fine. The sun's shining and, it's good, isn't it?
It is nice. About. Yeah, no, exactly right. But shall I tell you what I wanted to talk to you about today?
Yes.
Well, it's an idea that I've had for ages, really, but I've not ever got round to exploring it further.
Well, so it's one of your ideas.
Well, they normally are, aren't they? I know now and again you might throw your hat into the ring with something, but generally speaking, I have to do the donkey work. You're right.
This is definitely an example of selective memory.
Is it now? Okay. Well, I'll let that slide. But this idea was initially sparked by an interview I was watching on TV with the actor Phil Daniels. Remember him?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because he was being asked. Well, he's done lots of films, but he was being asked particularly about the film Quadrophenia,
which is the only one I can think of seeing him in.
Yeah, he's been in other stuff since, hasn't he?
Yeah, but, I'm sure he has, but that's the one that I associate him with.
Yeah, I think it was his sort of big break. Although he was in Scum and that beforehand, I think this one was a bit of a big break, wasn't it? But it was a film that I remember that my younger brother Paul and I were quite obsessed with at the time. I think it's probably one of the early films we were able to get out from the video shop to play at home, so you could watch it more than once. And in that, Phil Daniels, he obviously plays the main character, Jimmy, if you remember rightly.
I do.
And he said, when he was being interviewed, Phil Daniels said that he loved the way the film explored the character's search for an identity. Mm-hmm. If you remember rightly, it sparked a whole mod revival in the UK, didn't it, that one film?
It did. Yeah, there was people going around with targets on the back of their Parkers. They
were, and suddenly there was a load of Vespers and Lambrettas flying about everywhere.
Did you ever have to? Were you ever called upon to paint Selector or Madness on the back of a jacket?
No, I wasn't. No, even though I did know a few of the mods, but I was generally much more in the leather jacket, long-haired rocker brigade, really.
But if someone went along to you and took their Parker and asked you to put a Selector album on it, that would have been quite good, wouldn't it? That would have been quite a challenge. You'd only need black and white, wouldn't you?
You would only need a lot of the sort of Scar stuff was all black and white, wasn't it? But it was. That would have been easy, and the Parker material would have been quite nice, like a canvas.
Exactly.
Nice. But exactly. No, I never did one of those. Anyway, I was looking at this going, do you know what the meaning of Quadrophenia is or was? Because I'd never really, it wasn't until this week I understood really what it meant.
It's for something, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, it's a variation on schizophrenia, which is obviously a dissociative identity disorder, isn't it? And Quadrophenia reflects the 4 distinct personalities that Jimmy had in the film. Each one was supposed to represent one of the members of The Who wrote the original rock opera.
Oh.
On which the film was based.
Wow. I'd have to go back and watch that film again now to see if it made more sense. Which one was John Entwistle?
I don't know. I only found that out this week. All the years I've loved the film, I never really knew what it meant. I just accepted it as a word, and that was it. I moved on. Anyway, before we start, remember last week we were talking about veganism?
Yeah.
And I showed my ignorance regarding the understanding as to why vegans don't eat honey.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I had a text through from one of our regular listeners, Aaron, who put me straight on that one.
Okay.
So I thank him for clearing this one up, because I was a bit unsure. But his ex was a strict vegan, and she explained, well, obviously, they didn't get involved in any eating animals or animal byproducts, of which obviously honey is one of them. But the reasoning behind this is that at the majority of the hives, the drones spend their whole lives collecting pollen to be made into honey.
Yeah.
This is stored in the hive as a food source, for the whole of the hive during the leaner months. And then us humans come along, we take this food source and replace it with an inferior sugar water replacement.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's going to have an adverse effect on the general health of the hive, as well as really making the drones' lives, all their hard works, in their pursuit of pollen, seem sort of wasted, really. So that's the reasoning behind it. So so thanks to Aaron for helping me out on that one.
Well, thank you, because I've learned something as well. So really, when you're going to collect the honey from the hive, you should leave some honey behind. That would be better, wouldn't it?
Well, one for one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Put some old honey in there.
Or maybe some maple syrup. Just change it up a little bit.
Well, I suppose it's a bit like, if we are humans are putting this inferior sort of sugar water replacement stuff in there, it'd be a bit like, your veggie box that you get delivered. It'd be a bit like me taking that away and putting a little box there with some KFC, a family bucket of KFC down there, or some kebabs or something. It sort of keep you alive, but nutritionally, it's not in the same league.
Yeah, I like that analogy, and I wouldn't like you to do that.
Anyway, I'm going to drag you back to the subject matter.
Just on the subject, though, of identity, it's St. George's Day tomorrow, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that, and how that is very much associated with identity, isn't it?
It is, but it's sort of changed. I don't know how you feel, but you almost feel racist if you wear the cross of St. George, or
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It has a very significant connection to identity these days. I mean, my only real memories of St. George's Day are having to go on those crushingly boring St. George's Day parades with the scouts.
Oh, yeah. I remember those. God, that
horrendous,
was awful,
wasn't it? You have to wander around for ages on end, and you'd have to sit through the most boring of church services for what seemed like forever.
Forever, yeah.
It was a shocker, wasn't it?
It was, especially on those days where the parade, where it rained. It literally rained on your parade. It was horrible, wasn't it?
I hate that when I get absolutely caught in a metaphor, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, in a literal sense. Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to have to think of some other metaphors that have actually happened to me.
You have to jot them down. If you come up with them off the top of your head, that's quite impressive.
Well, I don't know. You think about it. I mean, there's a lot of metaphors around, aren't there?
Yeah.
You must have experienced some of them.
Yeah.
Apart from it raining on our parade.
Yeah, well, you'll have to cut a lot of this jibber jabber out. But yeah, it's a good idea.
I don't know why you even bother saying that, because you know that I won't.
All right, well, I'm definitely going to get you back to the subject matter in this case.
Mm-hmm. Go on then.
Anyway, that Phil Daniels interview was several years ago, but it sort of always stuck with me. But I was reminded of it again recently when watching, and I don't suppose for 1 minute you watched it, but Killing Eve.
Well, is this series 4?
It's just finished. Yeah, the latest series has just been on and finished.
Okay, so I got to 3.5. I watched halfway through series 3, and then I just didn't watch it anymore. So I am familiar with Killing Eve.
You are? Well, I'm slightly surprised at that because of its popularity, but
it wasn't popular when it started because nobody knew it. So
perhaps not, but it saves me really explaining the plot then in that case, which is fine. But you remember that the main protagonist, Villanelle, she constantly changes her identity, doesn't she? In her career as an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And Eve said to her, and it was in the most recent series, she said to her on one occasion that reinvention is a form of avoidance.
In her case, I think reinvention certainly was a form of avoidance. I don't think it necessarily has to be, does it? I mean, sometimes it can be quite useful. I suppose if you experience something, a massive life change, something that's very traumatic, that's really kind of upended you, sometimes reinvention is necessary. But actually, in some of those cases, the reinvention is only possible because you acknowledge your true self. But yes, I think certainly sometimes when people are finding kind of multiple different ways of presenting themselves, it might well be because they, for some reason, don't want to acknowledge who they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you reckon that identity is mainly formed in adolescence or in childhood, or is it? And this is a question I want to ask you: whether you thought it was a sort of I was going to use the word journey we're always on, but is it something we're constantly evolving our own identity?
Definitely. I think when people talk about, certainly my view, I think when people talk about identity almost as if it's just a fixed point.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that at all. I think inevitably our identity is shifting all the time. If you asked me who I was today, my description would almost definitely differ from what I said to you next Sunday, just because of, the way I'm seeing myself in that particular time. I think there are constants in us, but I certainly don't think that identity is a fixed thing. And I think it's actually quite destructive to think of it as such.
Also, when I was thinking about them, when I was writing my notes, because other people were creating an identity for us that, for example, people would looked at me as being a heavy drinker. It defined me as, and then the term alcoholic was appended to me.
Yeah.
Although the term alcoholic, as we've talked about in the past, is used incorrectly in most cases, we're very quick, aren't we, to identify other people by their differences.
Yeah, definitely. I think, other people can identify us in whatever way they want. It's when we subscribe to that description that the trouble starts. So for example, when you were drinking, there's probably a bad example for people who are in active addiction. But, if someone, I don't know, for instance, now saw you as, well, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Yeah.
That sort of very disparaging, pejorative way of seeing you, that's up to them. The important thing is you don't see yourself like that. And I think you're right. I think often people will see us in a certain way and they'll develop an opinion about us. And it may be from the parts of us that we've decided to reveal to them. But other people's opinions of us, other people's sense of our identity means nothing really. It's the way that we feel about ourselves that's so important. And I know that in some respects it's very kind of difficult to achieve that separation, particularly, I suspect, for people in recovery, because of all the, whenever you're in a situation where identity is wrapped up with shame and guilt, it obviously becomes very difficult.
It is a tough one. And you also get the situation, it comes up in groups from time to time, where people will actually have an opinion of us and then will try and antagonize and manipulate us so we fulfill that prophecy effectively. Yeah. So they would try and make you lapse. They try and push you into position, and then they can say, there we are, told you so. And so so we can have identity, and we can play up to that as well sometimes, can't we? If someone looks at us in a certain way, we can then adopt that identity, which again can be quite tricky. But there's so many, when I was doing the research, there's so many things that can shape our identity.
I think one of the things, and you may be coming on to talk about this, but I'll throw it in there just in case you're not.
Please do.
One of the things that makes our sense of ourselves or our sense of our own identity so difficult is that we confuse it with the roles that we play.
Okay.
So when we think of, ourselves, I'm a father and a professional and a friend, there's multiple roles that I play, but actually none of them are, they are part of me. But there's also something that kind of comes underneath that. There's some kind of sense of who I am without any of those things. When I move all of those roles aside, who am I left with?
Something I've never thought about particularly, stripping away those roles and see what's left. Probably not a great deal.
That tends to be the way we make sense of ourselves.
Is it?
Yeah, because we think of ourselves in terms of those things, but we're more than that. You didn't always play those roles, did you? You weren't always a father.
No.
You weren't always a alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic.
No.
So there's something kind of beyond. There's something underneath that, and I think that's one of the things that often we find difficult, and something you refer to quite frequently, the benefits of things like meditation and mindfulness. That's where those sorts of practices are really, really beneficial, because they are asking us to turn inwards, to reflect, to think about ourselves, and in some respects, aside from all of those various roles that we're playing, it's a very kind of singular way of looking at ourselves, or it gives us that opportunity anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. Certainly with meditation, where you are effectively looking inwards and therefore stripping away those roles, aren't you?
Yeah,
because exactly. you're not thinking about those roles when you're meditating.
Yeah, because you don't. The point is, it's in a way that it's similar to therapy. You don't have to be anyone. When you're in therapy, or you're meditating, or you're following a mindfulness practice, in those moments, the invitation to you is you don't need to fulfill a role. You don't need to be someone. You can be whoever you are. And that is an invitation that a lot of people find very, very difficult, but it is very liberating if you can reach it.
Yeah. I'm sort of nodding, but that doesn't really come across, does it, on
it comes across to me.
Episode.
It comes across to me.
I was nodding in agreement, and I was
don't really care about anyone else.
Well, we've turned in on ourselves on this one, haven't we?
Exactly. We're only interested in our own identity, aren't we?
But when I was doing the research on these things that shape our identity, there's so many of them that I was starting to think, do we actually have a choice? There's so many internal and external factors. The bit that's left, it's tiny. But I just wanted to go through some of those, just see what you think, really, because I think things like massively influences like our ethnicity, race, and culture. I mean, that's such a major impact, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Massive impact upon anyone. We're talking about, it goes back to the St. George's Day thing, or the St. George's.
Yeah.
And identity as an Englishman. Yeah,
because there's kind of multiple levels even within that, aren't there? So you can say, well, I identify with St. George because I'm English, I was born in England. But then you have to contend with all of the associated stuff that hangs off that. Oh, am I going to be perceived like this? Are people going to think that of me? And those are the sort of things that perhaps make us turn away from something that we associate with, even if we would like to. So, there's confusion even at that very, very kind of superficial level.
It is. There has. And I think that it's certainly with that particular thing, again, with the St. George, it's sort of, patriotism has now turned nasty, hasn't it, in many ways? And it's, basically the rest of the world are not keen on us English, are they? I'm not embarrassed to be English, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that you shout about anymore.
I am. I feel embarrassed.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, that's also part of identity. There's something, if you get to the point, and it's not right or wrong, it's just is how you feel, right? But I don't feel proud to be British or English. And for those reasons that you cite there, we have a shameful reputation, I think.
We do, yeah.
And I don't feel personally that I'm able to step aside from that and say, oh, well, that's not me. I think and that also is about identity, because that is also that kind of reflects an inability to separate ourselves from the place of our birth and the place that we live. And I think that's right. I think part of identity is taking collective responsibility. It's not just about what I do and my own personal actions and behaviours. I think I do have a kind of collective responsibility to my, fellow countrymen. And I wouldn't say that, I feel ashamed of everything about England, but I do feel ashamed of a lot of it.
Other things that I was looking at that shape identity, things like family, obviously the way you're brought up, so gender. Obviously, there's a lot of gender identity politics going on more recently than it ever has before. And I think that plays a big part in our identity, doesn't it? Relationships, they can have a big influence on our identity, can't they? We can be heavily influenced and change our identity to fit in with the person we're in a relationship with.
Yeah, it's interesting this, because all the things you're kind of talking about here, one could argue that it also works the other way around. If you think about the kind of various levels of consciousness at which we operate, who am I? That question about identity, to me, is quite kind of deep into our consciousness. And one could say that all of these things that you're describing here are impacting our identity, but one could also argue that actually it's our identity that impacts them.
Yeah,
the way I feel about myself, I think, impacts or forms my beliefs and my values and the way I behave and where I feel about, my location, my environment. So I think it's kind of really fluid. It can work both ways. I can be affected by that thing, or I can choose to deal with it in a certain way because of the impression, the belief I already have about myself. So it's deep. This is deep stuff, isn't it?
It is a little bit deep. I don't want to take it too much deeper than that, really, because you've got to draw some sort of distinction at some point, I suppose, between your identity and your personality.
You're choosing some very deep subjects these days.
Yeah, I know. It's not us, really, is it?
No, it's good though. It's good. What are we doing next week? What's the meaning of life?
Well, exactly. I don't want to drag you too much down. I don't want it to be a busman's holiday for you.
It's great. It's good. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
Other things just to throw into the mix there was also that came up was things like, life experiences can create. Again, it's going to affect personality as well as your identity, I think. But other things that I think we can relate to, things like sports affiliation. So you're affiliated to a certain team, and you get that has people can identify you. You wear the colours, don't you? Mm-hmm. You're identifying with the team, and other people identify you as a fan of that team.
Yes.
Political and religious affiliations, that came up as quite a strong case of, because we can be identified by the party we vote for in political system, and also by the religious faith.
Yeah, those things, they really do. They're examples of how what's happening in society at large can have a big impact on the way that at least other people identify us, if not the way that we identify ourselves. As we become. So, for instance, politically, I can't remember our country being more polarised than it is these days politically. No. And I think, it probably has been. I just can't remember it. And I think that has a big impact because it creates a real kind of sense of sometimes vitriol and resentment about people who are on the opposite side of the divide.
Yeah.
And so that's a kind of way in which our identity can be impacted by things that are happening actually outside of our sphere of influence. One could argue that they're in our sphere of influence because we all have a vote, but it's, the way that you might be seen with a particular political or religious affiliation changes with society, doesn't it?
It does. And I think more people will change who they vote for as time goes by as well.
Mm.
So that's a part of the evolution of our identity.
Yeah.
But last few little ones in there, the substances that we abuse, that can affect our identity, that's for sure. That was
certainly affects the way other people identify us.
Exactly.
And you're right, it probably does change the way that we identify ourselves. But I think, again, with substance abuse and addiction, it feels to me as if what actually happens is that we are obscuring our identity. It's not changing, I don't think. I think
no.
Because if you think about what addiction is an avoidance.
Yeah, it is.
And it goes back to the Villanelle thing. When you're addicted, what you're really doing is you're avoiding who you are. You're avoiding that question of, well, who are you then? You don't want to look at it, probably because you feel shameful or, as if you're worthless or whatever it might be. So it's, you're still there underneath it all. Because if you weren't, when you go into recovery, you wouldn't be able to find yourself, would you?
No, you wouldn't. You're right.
I think it's kind of important. I don't know. I'm not a recovering addict, but if that feels like something quite important for people in recovery, you were never gone. You were obscured. No. You've been lost. But in recovery, you're finding yourself again. It's not. It's this whole idea of the addicted part of you being hated. Actually, the addicted part of you is it's like an overlay, isn't it? It's like this is part of you But there's something else underneath you.
This is a veneer, isn't it? It's a veneer. It's a veneer that gets thicker the more you're involved in it. Yeah. I agree. So that one little line in Killing Eve then we've dissected it quite a lot. It's a bit like being back at school, isn't it? When you go through a Shakespeare play, and every little line is torn apart, and searching for the use of. Sorry?
Or Chaucer.
Or Chaucer, yeah, exactly right. You're looking for any little allegory or metaphor or whatever, aren't you? And trying finding stuff that isn't there. But I think we found stuff that is there in this one. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's good. Just
the last couple of ones to throw in, which I think, apart from genetics or disability is quite a big one, because that can we touched on that before. How we can fight against that as well, can't we? You look at we mentioned the Paralympics, where people aren't allowing their disability to define them. They're still cracking on and doing what they want to do.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly my point, actually.
Yeah.
Identity is something deeper than the physical. It isn't just what we can or can't do. If you suffer an accident or something and it creates a disability in you, you are still, obviously you might be changed by that, but we're more than our physical bodies. We're more than our emotions. We're more than our thoughts. There's something, that's my belief anyway. There's something more to us than that.
I agree.
I need to believe that, because otherwise, what's the point?
But the last couple of bits really, music and films, which takes us back to Phil Daniels again, really. So that is at the end of my list, but it fitted in nicely. So I was doing one of those pullbacks again, like you were talking about last week.
It's nice. You like a bit of circular, don't you?
It ties it back in with the opening. Yeah. But music, I mean, that for me was a big influence upon my identity. Certainly, again, talking to that point where is identity? Where does it really first start to come to the fore? And certainly for me in my adolescence, music greatly shaped my identity.
Yeah, again, it's also a good example of how it can work the other way around as well, isn't it? Because when you decide that this is the group I want to be a part of, this is who I identify with, actually but by definition, you start to listen to and like the music, because I'm in this is the crowd I'm in, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably why you liked a lot of new romantic music when you were younger.
Well, I was thinking, because I sort of changed, I know when punk came along, I thought this is fantastic and it's great. Exactly. And I wanted to be a punk. And then it's sort of heavy metal was a less violent form, and I liked that. And then new romantics came along. Yeah. And especially, I was probably influenced by my younger brother at that point, who was properly into all that stuff. So I got into that as well. So I evolved, and my music taste changed, and my identity changed. Yeah. I used to put on different clothes depending on which gig I was going to.
That's what I was saying earlier. Your sense of yourself shifts. I mean, what a depressing thought if it doesn't.
Well, exactly. If it was,
of course, a lot of the way that we feel about ourselves and the sense of ourselves is created in childhood, but always reminds me of that lovely phrase that I heard from someone once, and I can't remember who, that you don't have to have nobody has to have an unhappy childhood forever. If you can't ever break free of things that have caused you to see yourself in a certain way, then crikey, that feels like a pretty hopeless and helpless way of viewing life.
It is, and I think I wanted to sort of. We have got sort of gone around a little bit of a circle here, back to what I was saying right at the start, but I think we've covered quite a lot of good stuff here. But this quote I just wanted to bring you to sort of wrap things up before we get on to the other bits and pieces was it's by someone called, I can read my writing here, B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar. Now, he was an Indian social reformer and political leader. And he says, and I quote him, that unlike a drop of water which loses its identity when it joins the ocean, man does not lose his being in the society in which he lives. Man's life is independent. He is born not for the development of society alone, but for the development of his self.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's about right. It's what you were saying, really, wasn't it?
It is that underneath whatever way you associate with this person or that person, or you play this role or that role, underneath there's something more to you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Good. Well, that's me pretty much done on that. I enjoyed the research this week. Actually, I've got to say,
you're learning stuff, aren't you? When you're doing it, that's nice.
Yeah, I really did. I thought it was really good. So I'm sort of grateful for that. I'm not. Well, that's quite a nice segue.
Gratitude?
I'm not putting it wasn't on my gratitude, but I am grateful for having the opportunity to do these podcasts, and it continues my learning, which is it always makes you feel a little bit better about yourself, and it keeps me sober,
which is also quite important, massively
important.
Yeah. So what's on your gratitude list this week?
Sticky tape, right? Well, various sorts, really. I was thinking about this because I was just thinking about sticky tape, but masking tape I love. Obviously, I use that all day, every day in my work. But it's very versatile, masking tape. So I've used it when I've cut myself at work, use it as a sticking plaster, and use it not only for what it's supposed to be used to. I've mended my the clothes I'm wearing. If I've ripped them at work, quick bit of masking tape gets you by. So masking tape or gaffer tape, I love. Do you remember how we used to use gaffer tape a lot when we were doing gigs? Yeah, gaffer tape. I love gaffer tape. So anything, sellotape. You can use that for all sorts of different. I love it. Sticky tape. I'm grateful for it. Well, actually, I'm very pleased. I'm very grateful actually for sticking plasters, especially after I had to use them after being horribly mauled by one of your dogs this week. It was useful to cover up my wound on my leg.
I think we should probably clarify horribly mauled, should we? I think she was excited and jumped up at you and gave you a little scratch
on my leg.
Yeah, which you sent me a photo of.
I did, yeah.
And I didn't really understand why you sent me a photo, because it didn't do anything to accentuate the story or embellish it. It just looked like a pathetic little scratch.
No, it did. It was a deep wound, and I was saying because there's a row of little tiny scabs, and my grandson William picked one off while I wasn't looking when I was over there in the week, wearing shorts. Suddenly I felt this sharp pain in my leg, and he was picking up the scabs. And it reminded me of what a painful experience it was by being mauled by your dogs, your pack of dogs. It's like wolves. It's like I was set upon like a lot of wolves at a bit of meat.
I trained her to keep unsavoury characters, at arm's length. That's what. Well,
they always say there's no such thing as a bad dog. It's just a bad owner, and I think you fall into that category. You're a disgrace.
No, she was defending me. She's a good dog. So I gave her special extra food when we got home. Good dog. I said, good dog, mauling Martin. Good dog.
So, I suppose that's on your gratitude list, is it? You're grateful that she mauled me.
No, my gratitude this week it's dog related, actually. I'm grateful that she now appears to be reaching the end of her first season. Because when you've got a bitch in heat, I tell you what, it's a pain. You were just about
to swear there, weren't you? You pulled yourself in.
I was going to swear. Apart from all the mess everywhere, which I won't talk into any detail about. Not being able to go to the normal places that you go walking, and having to keep her away from other dogs and keeping her on a lead most of the time. It's a flipping nuisance. So anyway, that's it.
That's it.
It's been a month, and it feels like about 6 months.
You've had a little whinge as well, so I hope you found it cathartic.
Yeah, I did. I think I needed to get that off my chest.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, that's what I'm grateful for.
Anyway, on my Spotify search this week, I just put Identity by X-Ray Specs, which is just a fabulous track anyway, and it worked in nicely. Yeah.
That was polystyrene, wasn't it? Was it?
It was. She was the lead singer, bless her, when she died in... Now? Sorry?
She's dead, isn't she?
Yeah, she was only 53 when she died. She died in 2011, which is when I stopped drinking. So her death was my rebirth at that time. So it all happened in that year.
The two events related?
Almost definitely, yeah.
You think that's it? Now polystyrene's dead, I've got to stop drinking.
That's it, yeah. It
really affected you.
I can't go further into misery. I've got to get myself sorted out now. Okay, so yeah, the bands that we like but have never purchased any material, because you did set us a bit of homework, didn't you, before for last week? I don't know if you saw that through.
Yeah, I didn't. I forgot.
You forgot? Okay. Well, I did. Well, I found that I listened to a Beth Hart album, and it was perfect music when I was doing my notes as well, researching my notes. So it all fitted in nicely.
That's good. And I can't listen to music when I'm writing.
Yeah, it was sort of. I really liked it. It's very bluesy, sort of quite backgroundy, if you like, almost like a Sunday morning album. You could put it on now, and you'd feel you'd thought, oh yeah, this suits perfectly. It was lovely.
Was it easy,
it was
like
really,
Sunday morning, like the Commodores?
It was lovely, and I'm glad I listened to the whole of the album. I thought it was a ninth studio album. It was called War in My Mind, which I quite liked that concept. As you know, Beth Hart is in recovery herself and drink and drugs. So yeah, I loved it. Well, who's on your list this week? Anyway, if you've got someone else to put on your list,
The Jam. No, I have actually. I have. It's going to be difficult for anyone to top this one.
Okay.
The Beatles.
What? You've got no Beatles material?
I haven't got any. Well, I've got a Beatles compilation, but I think as we established, you can't count compilations.
No.
Because that's not really buying an album, is it? So I haven't got any Beatles, no.
Well, you're a rare person in society then.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I like the Beatles because, well, who doesn't?
Okay. So you can listen to a bit of Beatles. I'll listen to a bit of Everlast this week in that case, because
Everlast.
As a band, again, it's a band I saw live at Ramblin' Man, and in fact, same stage that Beth Hart was on. I think she came on after Everlast, bro. And Everlast
going through the lineup on that day.
Virtually.
Oh, yeah.
There's several. Well, no, I think it's probably the last one from that particular festival that I thought, wow, they're really good. I mean, Everlast they're big in America. Well, he's big in. I
don't know any.
No, I mean, Everlast is the name of the guy. It's the name of the guy. Is Everlast. He was the lead singer of. Do you remember the group called the House of Pain? They did Jump Around.
Oh God, yeah,
yeah. But he's moved on from that sort of hip hoppy sort of stuff to it's sort of acoustic rock. And there's a track they did on the day called White Trash Beautiful, which was just a wonderful song. In fact, I'll send you the link. You listen to it. I think you'd like it. So it's sort of acoustic rock. It's in fact, I'd almost guarantee it'd be an overlapping Venn diagram of musical tastes.
That's a lofty claim.
It is a lofty claim.
Yeah. Is that it?
Job done. Thank you.
Good. I'll see you next time.
Laters. Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandy-wellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.